Witnessing my son suddenly fall ill, my husband coldly remarked to me, who was exhausted both mentally and physically,
"You should just stick to housework and child care. I only settled for you because I married a woman who would tolerate cheating."
He uttered these dismissive words without a shred of concern for our little son. Shocked, I was left speechless as my husband reached for his second can of beer. My name is Alyssa. I'm 33 years old. 4 years ago, I met my husband, Kevin, who is 8 years my senior, through a marriage agency. Kevin works for a top-tier company, and although he's quite proud, he was the one who actively pursued me, who is rather shy. I was quickly swept off my feet by his manliness. He complimented me on my modesty, saying it was befitting of a true lady, and I tried my best to live up to his expectations even when we started living together before marriage. It must have worked, because after a year of dating, he finally proposed to me, a moment I had eagerly awaited. Of course, my answer was okay.
"As the main breadwinner, I'll support us. So once we're married, I want you to take care of the home."
To fulfill his wish, I quit my job to devote myself to married life. We invited many people and had a grand wedding, and soon after, my husband moved into my house. From then on, I devoted myself to housework and to my husband, spending my free time on hobbies. My family blessed us, and friends looked on with envy. To the outside world, my husband was a successful high earner. My husband has a good appearance and looks attractive, and now I also have our adorable son, Robert. It seemed like I was living a happy married life. Yes, I should have been truly happy, but
"I'll be late. Don't bother with dinner. Just prepare a shower and a snack and wait."
a sigh escaped me as I received this message after I had finished making dinner. The joy of being married only lasted the first year. He was happy about having a child for a moment, but soon said he was too busy with work to touch anything related to childcare. If I asked for a little help, he would glare at me. "Do you expect someone who works outside to do housework and childcare too?" And he would leave the house clearly in a bad mood. As days passed, he came home later, and the nights he returned drunk increased proportionally. Sometimes, he would come home reeking of perfume I didn't recognize. Meanwhile, I was desperate with childcare, chronically sleep-deprived, and sometimes housework would lag. However, it seemed my husband still wanted the same treatment he had before we had a child.
Lounging around all day with just a baby who sleeps, and you can't even keep up with the housework. You're living the life.
One day, I accidentally fell asleep with my son, and when my husband came home, he woke me up with those harsh words and a cold look I had never seen before. The next day, I saw him off in a bad mood and tried to maintain the house as usual, waiting for him. That day, he came home earlier than usual and broached the topic of divorce.
"If you don't like it, apologize from the bottom of your heart. Come on, show me with your attitude."
For the sake of our young son, losing a father figure should be avoided. I just needed to endure. I bit my lip and knelt down. "I'm sorry, really sorry." That night, I licked someone's shoes for the first time in my life. Thinking back, the warmth of my sleeping son beside me was the only thread holding my sanity together. While I struggled with unfamiliar childcare duties and devoted myself more to my husband, his late nights and partying became the norm. When I saw nightclub business cards or membership cards, his first words were, "It's just socializing." And the next, "If you have a problem with it, we can get a divorce." That was all. By the time I was getting used to this life, I was starting to feel worn down by housework and childcare, and one day, I accidentally fell asleep next to my son. I don't know how long it was before I was awakened by my son's loud crying. "What's wrong?" My young son was crying, his face bright red. When I picked him up, his body was unusually hot, and alarmed by his unusual state, I rushed him to the hospital where he was born. Fortunately, the doctors said there was no major issue, but since he was still very young, they decided to admit us for tests just to be safe.
The sick child care room is still open, and we can take care of your child for a while if you need to go home to get something.
The nurse told me this, so I decided to go home alone for a while. I hesitated as I looked at my smartphone. I was told not to contact him during work hours, but this was about our son. I decided to call my husband but got no response, so I reluctantly sent a message. My young son was waiting alone in an unfamiliar place. I couldn't afford to wait for a reply. I grabbed the necessary items, left a note on the table just in case, and decided to take a taxi back to the hospital. As expected, my son was cranky all day and stuck to me like glue. A cot was provided, but I couldn't leave his side, not even to go to the restroom or eat properly, and time just passed by. My son finally fell asleep from exhaustion around 11 p.m. I went to the restroom and sipped some cocoa I bought from a vending machine for a bit of calories when my phone blared. It was my husband. "Hello? How was your day?"
Hey, where are you?
His grumpy voice made my heart sink. "I'm at the hospital." "Didn't you see the note?" "I'm staying overnight with Robert for his medical tests."
What about my dinner?
Such a thing? His disregard for our son irritated me, but I didn't want to raise my voice and wake up the son who had just fallen asleep. I replied, trying to keep my cool. "Didn't you read my message?" I had no time to cook. There are some ready-made meals in the fridge, and there's bread for breakfast. You have the car, so you can go out to eat, right? Just fend for yourself tonight.
A man should not enter the kitchen. Haven't you heard that saying? You expect a tired husband to cook. There's nothing for you to do at the hospital anyway. Just come home now for me.
In the background, I heard the sound of a beer can opening. Despite his grand words, he was willing to enter the kitchen for a drink. Without a single word of concern for his son, he told me to come home and didn't seem to have any intention of coming to get me. My anger started to boil as he comfortably began his evening drink alone. No buses, and it's ridiculous to ask that. Besides, how can I leave this barely one-year-old child alone and come home? It's a hospital stay for tests, aren't you worried at all? My voice raised before I could stop it, and he clicked his tongue.
What? You talk back because I can see your face. Keep that attitude and I'll divorce you. Just a stay-at-home mom without any significant qualifications or education, plain and barely average in looks. How do you think you'll survive in this economy? Basically, child care and housework are your job. It's because you neglect your duties that things like this happen.
Again with that. The word divorce that he's been using frequently like a trump card since that day. Always with the divorce, divorce. What do you think of us? It just slipped out. Balancing childcare and housework was never easy, but I've been trying as a wife and mother because I believed that he loves our family. I turned a blind eye to his late returns and outings, believing he's working for the family. Then suddenly, the phone went quiet, and I heard the sound of a second beer can opening and him finishing it with a gulp before he yelled at me loudly.
What are you even talking about? You think you could live without me? That's hilarious.
What?
Talking back to your husband. You should just stick to housework and child care before drying up.
Drying up?
Women are just drying up after 30, right? I'm not about to wither just because I'm stuck with a withering flower. It's natural for a man to choose younger women. I only settled for you because I married a woman who would tolerate cheating.
I was so shocked I couldn't speak. My husband sneered as I was struck speechless by his harsh words that couldn't be excused by the alcohol.
I can stand a life tied down to domesticity. I filled up on alcohol, and I don't need dinner anymore. I'm going to sleep. I'll be out tomorrow too, so don't contact me anymore. Listen, if you don't want me to divorce you, think about your position again. If you keep that attitude while I'm the one providing, I won't give you any more money for living expenses.
He abruptly hung up the phone. At that moment, something inside me snapped. Suddenly, it felt like someone else's problem, realizing that to him, marriage and even our child were just tools for appearances. My affection for my husband disappeared without a trace. Disappointment surged into anger. It was bad enough for me, but I couldn't forgive a husband who wouldn't even cherish our adorable son. I'm not going to remain a timid, quiet wife forever. I'll make him regret underestimating a mother. The next day, while my son was being examined, I contacted a private investigator. Later, my son was found to have no major issues and was discharged. We went back home. As expected, my husband didn't come to pick us up and showed no sign of concern. I messaged him the results of our son's diagnosis, but he ignored it. He only came back near dawn. His face was red and reeking of alcohol. As I met him at the entrance, I said quietly, "I've reconsidered my position."
Oh, well, I'll let it slide this time. Be grateful.
He snorted through his nose, scattering his clothes as he went upstairs, and flopped into bed in his underwear, soon snoring loudly. I picked up his shirt, noticing it was covered in something like cosmetic glitter. Do as you please. Seeing my now plainly middle-aged husband, I quietly began to prepare. About a month later, just as the sky was beginning to lighten, I was awakened by the persistent ringing of the doorbell.
Hey, wake up. Damn it, why won't this open? It's your husband coming home.
It seemed my husband had returned from a business trip supposed to last 2 nights. Expecting him at night, but a morning return, huh? Whether it was really a business trip was doubtful, but at this point, it didn't matter to me. Rubbing my sleepy eyes, I called him on his phone. "Could you stop that first thing in the morning? You're disturbing the neighbors."
Hey, why won't the key work? Did Robert break it? See, this is what happens when you don't watch things properly.
It's not broken.
What? That can't be.
I changed the locks while you were away on your business trip.
Huh.
From the second-floor window, I could see my husband standing there, dumbfounded.
Damn you. What the hell are you doing? What do you think you're doing to your husband? Divorce. I'll divorce you. If you don't like it, open up already.
I already did.
What?
The divorce papers, right? I've already filed them. You and I are strangers now.
What? Wait a minute. I don't remember signing anything. Oh, I get it. You filled it out yourself and submitted it, didn't you? That's called forgery, you know, and it makes it invalid.
My husband laughed triumphantly, but I snorted at him. Did you forget? The first time you brought up divorce, you brought a pre-filled form.
What?
Yes. That day I licked his shoes. My husband had deliberately brought a filled-out divorce form home. And after pushing it in front of me and getting my apology, he crumpled it up and threw it at me.
That was supposed to be thrown away.
I didn't throw it away. You threw the crumpled divorce papers at me, but I kept them just in case. Maybe I knew that a day like this would come from that moment. As I spoke earnestly, my husband flapped his mouth, clearly flustered.
What about the house? The living expenses? How do you think a housewife like you will survive from now on? Poor thing. Your young son will be at a loss because of his mother's reckless actions.
Don't get it wrong. Forgot? This house originally came to me from my late grandparents, and I'm the owner. You just lived with me. And I'll be fine financially. I have a job, you know.
You're lying. You didn't have time to get a job.
I used to paint as a hobby. You always told me not to go to bed before you, so I painted while waiting for you. I posted those online, and they caught the eye of a publisher.
What? That's impossible. You're being scammed.
Getting discovered through the internet isn't unusual these days. It's a reputable place. You know it, right? I mentioned the publisher's name.
Seriously?
My husband muttered, stunned. It was the first time in a long time I heard such a foolish sound from him that wasn't yelling or sarcasm. So I'll be fine for now. Anne.
And
I'll also have the alimony from you.
what?
I opened the window and threw the photos I got from the detective at my husband. I hired a detective. It would have been one thing if you were just playing around, but you had physical relationships with those girls. I've also contacted them. The girls immediately sided with me when I said I wouldn't claim alimony. My husband scrambled to gather the photos, his face pale. Understandably. The photos clearly showed him entering a shady place with a young woman, obviously working in the nightlife industry. Here's more.
What?
Next, I scattered screenshots of all the messages he had sent neglecting me and our son. As morning arrived, people began to move around. With both the photos and the messages, my husband's reputation would be none. I've kept records of all our daily interactions, everything that can be saved. Of course, I'll be submitting these to my lawyer too. You can take those photos and screenshots with you. The original data is safely stored.
What? A detective? A lawyer? You think you can do this with my money?
I used my savings from before we were married, so you have no right to complain. I snapped back, and my husband bit his lip and glared at me. Since we got married, under my husband's demand to be frugal, I hardly ever spent money on myself, and my savings were almost untouched. I was surprised at how much I had saved. I should have done this sooner. I'm angry at my former self for being so passive. Worried about the neighbor's eyes, my husband gave a forced smile and said in a gentle voice,
Okay, I get it. I apologize. Let me in for now. We're still husband and wife, right?
We are no longer husband and wife. We are strangers now. Check the mailbox. He obediently opened the mailbox. He took out an envelope and stared at it intently. There's a key and a map to a storage unit inside. Everything you've bought with your salary since we got married is dumped there. The car, since you bought it, you can take. Just get out of my sight. Thank goodness he never did any housework. I knew exactly where everything he owned was. Though he probably didn't even know how many shirts he had.
No way. I can't live without you.
His plaintive tone now only gave me chills. I can live without you. You're not interested in a withering flower or his son, right? Why don't you find some young girl to take care of you?
Wait, just wait.
From now on, we'll communicate through lawyers. If you linger too long, I'll call the police. Goodbye. I hung up the phone and then locked the windows and drew the curtains. For a while, my husband rang the doorbell and fiddled with the door. He sent numerous pleading texts, which I ignored. When the neighbors began whispering about seeing him, he roughly got into his car and drove away as if fleeing. Later, I received a call from my in-laws. Apparently, it seems that my husband has been spending most of his discretionary income and savings from his single days on nightlife, childishly running to his parents when things got tight. After I explained the situation clearly with evidence to my in-laws, they handed me a thick envelope a few days later saying, "Our foolish son has caused you trouble." Inside, the alimony against husbands was there bundled together with an added amount. It seems the in-laws fronted the money in place of the husband, who had no foreseeable means to pay. I heard that my husband had been using his decent position to fund his escapades with company money. My report to the club led to his banishment. Suddenly unable to balance his finances, his company caught wind of his activities, and while he wasn't fired, he was demoted to a trivial position in a remote office. Now, he lives alone in a cheap apartment, clueless about household chores. I could picture his miserable life, but I feel no sympathy. He brought it upon himself. Meanwhile, after selling the house, I moved back to my parents' home, explaining the situation. I started working as an illustrator and took a part-time job at a supermarket. I can't afford luxuries, but I live comfortably enough to eat what I want when I want. My parents are supportive, and above all, my son has been healthy and growing every day since that incident. Recently, he's been eager to help around the house, which makes me incredibly happy. Without a father, I've sworn on my bare ring finger to make him happy on my own.